Welcome back, everybody, to Running the Rift's coverage of the NACL Open Qualifier. We are switching away from Aporia for the first time this tournament. We're going to be covering Lotus versus Reluminate here in round number 4. Both of these teams sitting at 2-1. My name's Gordo. I'm joined by Quacks, and Quacks already taking a lot of time to think about these bans are both squads.
Yup, and I mean, Lotus, sticking to their guns, they know exactly what has worked for Reluminate in these past 3 games. So Corki being taken away from Foles, they're taking away the Karma from Cafu. I hope I'm not mispronouncing these names wrong. I already know that Crucial's gonna crucify me on Twitter if I do. But for the most part, Reluminate are sticking to bot lane bans, making sure that their bot lane can sit comfortably, not have to play against major poke lanes. You can see Senna, Seraphine, Ashe, all poke champions that no one wants to play against, right?
Yeah, the Crucial question coming up right away, right? Is it Crucial? I've only ever seen him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Could it be like Crucial, and this is just like an off spelling, like a fun spelling of it? Could it be Crucial, Crucial? It's hard to tell. We're gonna go with Crucial for the duration of this stream, but questions that we will need to answer if this Reluminate team continues on the fantastic run that they've had so far, coming in seeded at number 18 and having had a huge upset up against Ole Miss following a smaller upset over Illinois State, now finding themselves in the 2-1 bracket. And the result of how the seeding works in this tournament is that, you know, when you have a big upset against a number 4 seed like Ole Miss, you get rewarded by playing against the number 1 seed in Winthrop and now the number 3 seed, or now the number 7 seed in Lotus, rather, not the number 3 seed, as Aporia is in the higher bracket. But still, some real tough matchups for them here, and we're going to have to see if they have what it takes to go toe-to-toe with Lotus. They certainly did have what it takes to go toe-to-toe with Ole Miss and come across with that win over in round 2.
Yeah, I mean, Reluminate is really riding the hype train, I feel. Got derailed slightly after their match against Winthrop, but that is the number 1 seeded team in the entire thing, so it is to be expected. But Reluminate looks like they're sticking to their guns, literally. They are going with Lucian Melio here, trying to be as aggressive as possible. Exithy and Cafu really like these more aggressive bot lanes. Anything that can get push, for Shimmer, who is another player that I think we should have our eyes on a lot in this matchup, has really been their key to salvation in a lot of their series. A Demon run with a 16-0 Viego happened in one of their games. I forget the opponent.
I think it was the Ole Miss game.
It was the Ole Miss game. So yeah, Shimmer really is a player on a team that is sort of riding this wave of hype that not a lot of people expected to even sort of accumulate here. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Lotus, a team that fell down into their last game against Aporia and who are just looking to correct that and get themselves into qualifying here, because we have to remember, whoever wins this game, they have 3 wins. They're officially into the top 16. This is a chance for both teams. This is salvation for both of them, if you will.
Yeah, it very well could be here. Of course, been a really interesting run for them so far that a lot of people are going to be keeping a close eye on. Had a really solid Jax performance in the first game as well. Did our good friend in the jungle there. I'm already forgetting his name. It's Shimmer. And Shimmer, you know, definitely going to be a face that a lot of people are paying closer attention to after this OQ already, right? Even if this game doesn't go exactly the way they hope. Would certainly be a tragedy for this Reluminate team to start 2-0 and not at least go 3-2 and make top 16. But would have to, again, the result of the seeding here is that they do play some very tough opponents. But if Ole Miss is beatable, Lotus should be beatable. We will have to see how Shimmer and the rest of the squad are going to be able to perform here. That early Udyr lock-in, that's likely going to be going for Crucial in the top lane. Could be flexed to jungle, could even be flexed to mid. We saw a little bit of that last year in the NACL. Insanity was a big player for it. I think top lane is most likely. That's where most folks have been playing it these days, but will be a fun one to check out. Something that I personally have not gotten to see in this OQ yet. Somehow I've dodged top Udyr 3 games in a row.
I mean, more power to you on that. Udyr top is definitely a menace to society, especially when he is left pretty untouched. This champion can basically do it all. He can push waves, freeze waves, hold waves. He can go aggressive, play turtle. There really isn't a lot that Udyr can't do. And so as we move to the bans here, Lotus targeting away the jungle and mid lane. Meanwhile, Reluminate just heavily throwing down some of the hook champions that Mixture is known for, not letting him get some of those in his back pocket for this matchup. And Reluminate going to slam down the Orianna here. I have to imagine that this is going to be comboed with a jungler who likes to go in. Xin Zhao in particular comes to mind. He is left relatively untouched. And against champions like Varus and Rumble, where you can just completely dodge out on the damage for some of their combos, it could be a really useful pickup that I think Reluminate is definitely looking for.
Very much could be. Now, looking at their support selection, Lotus hovering this Rakan, looking for some reliable engage to go alongside that Vi. And wow, so much lockdown now available for this blue side draft between the Chains of Corruption, what that Rakan's going to bring to the table, and all in service of keeping folks on top of that equalizer. The question is, what are they going to take in mid lane now? They know they're up against the Orianna. Are they going to look for more damage? I certainly think that's got to be high up on the priority list here. If you don't
Maybe
trust...
a Nico?
Could be a Nico. Could get more lockdown that way. Oh, looking at the new kid on the block, though. Hovering the Hui. Will it be locked in? It will. Lotus going to be giving that one over to Aojun. We're going to see how he can do. I do think this is a lot more in Aojun's wheelhouse. He's a big mage guy. He's always been a mage guy. I want to see how he does on this new one.
And yeah, Gordo, I mean, you're going to have to teach me all of the ability names for Hui, because I do not have the mental capacity to memorize all, 9, 10 abilities that Hui has in his arsenal. It's basically Aphelios, but in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Reluminate, maybe going to slam down the Hecarim of all champions. We wanted Engage, and this is certainly what we meant. This is a beautiful pickup, and I think it complements Shimmer's carry playstyle perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely here. So caking in that Hecarim, going for stuff that's a little bit less traditional. I like to see it here from the Reluminate squad, and they've got so much cool synergy now around some of the supportive abilities they got to be able to put together as well. The speed boosts coming through from Orianna going to be so useful for that for that Udyr and that Hecarim, both valuing the movement speed, both valuing the ability to get those distances closed. Maybe see a little Shirelias or something coming on through from the Melio to help on out that engage potential. This is some real exciting stuff that they put together.
Yeah, and I mean, the big question that I have for this Hecarim in particular is what his build is going to be. We've seen since Season 14 dropped a lot of different Hecarim builds. You can go Profane Hydra, you can go Trinity Force, you can rush the Sphere of Sojin. There's so much potential, I think, for Shimmer to play whatever he basically wants, because you can see the team is mostly going to be operating around him. You have an Orianna who will likely be playing around the Hecarim, and Udyr, who I imagine will probably be rotating to any kind of invades that Shimmer might want to go for, and a bot lane that has a crap load of push for all things considered. So this really is just going to be playing around this Hecarim, trying to snowball him as quickly as possible and making him as fast as possible to the point where he's just completely unkillable, unstoppable, and basically the Hecarim of your nightmares.
The Hecarim of my nightmares is what he's hoping to be here, as this is going to be what they've saved their R5 pick for. Not a lot of folks saving jungle to this point of the draft in current meta. You often are seeing a solo lane counter pick here, but they decide this is what is going to be most valuable. And if you're going to go for something off the wall, I think that's the best time to go for it as well.
Absolutely.
It means that you can't really find yourself any of those counter picks. So we're going to ready up to get into the in-client draft here before too long, so should just be a couple minutes away from being able to get onto the Rift. This is going to be a really big game for both of these teams. We once again find ourselves in a position where, all right, well, we are not quite ready yet. All right, a certain somebody does not own Melio.
That is a very interesting reason. I have seen a lot of different reasons to remake a lobby. I think this is a first for me, Gordo. You've been around the scene longer, so maybe you don't share that same well,
they can't remake draft. They just have to probably swap accounts to get one that has Melio. People are talking about remaking the whole lobby just to do blind pick to make it faster. I mean, I don't have too much of a stance on that. It's going to make it a pain to get me back in, I'll tell you that much. This is all going to end up cut from the
Yeah.
VOD anyway, I'm 90% sure. But we'll have to wait and see. So, gonna have a little bit more time to just veg, to just chat about. Okay, here's Kafu coming back in, clearly on their main account now. So, now we're ready. I'm gonna hit Prod R again. Surely we're going to realize that. All right, good job, everybody. I'm glad we've all been able to put our brains together and realize that it is probably going to take longer to craft a new lobby for blind pick and get everybody invited to that lobby than it will take to just go through picks and bans right now in the lobby we already have. And it looks like that is what they're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going back to some of these team comps while they are going for their ban phase that totally don't reflect the champions that we are actually banning away. I really think that Lotus's team comp, I like the juxtaposition between these two teams. On one hand, you have Lotus very clearly going to be looking for team fight lockdown with the Rakan, the Vi, making sure, like you said, Gordo, they stay in that equalizer as, much as humanly possible. Meanwhile, it feels like Reluminate are putting all of their eggs in the Hecarim basket. So I have to imagine that's exactly where Lotus want to target, right? They want to make sure they get deep vision. They want to know where Hecarim is at all times. And we already saw it in the game against Apophoria that music loves, or I'm sorry, not music, the amount of aggression that Vi can sort of display in the early game, just going into the enemy jungle's territory if they have the correct prio and just messing with them a little bit. And against a full clear champion like Hecarim, I think that that is what you should be looking for.
Absolutely here. Only other thing I do want to call out here as well, like with the Hui, especially a champion that we have not gotten to see too much of yet, as they've only just recently started allowing it into competitive, is, I mean, first of all, you talk about 9 different abilities, knowing all the different ability names. That's definitely going to be tough, and I'm definitely not going to know them all. Spiraling Despair is the ultimate. The only other real one you got to focus on is Molten Fissure, right? I mean, that's the name of the game here for the Hui in a lot of situations. That QE combo ability that just does such a fantastic job of clearing out waves and poking and everything that you could want from it. It's such a powerful ability, and it's doing a lot to put this Hui on the map on his own. Something else I do want to have my eye on, though, is going to be the Grim Visage, the EQ, where you can fear somebody away. There's no Master Yi in this game. He's the funniest champion in the game to fear because he also immunes himself to slows, so he just books it in the other direction. Udyr and Hecarim don't immune themselves to slows, so they're not going to be booking it away quite as fast, but they do have a lot of movement speed. They are going to build a lot of movement speed. Depending on the build, we might even see some Swifty Boots or something to resist slows. And Grim Visage can certainly make them turn tail and run quite farther away than they might anticipate in a lot of other situations.
And I mean, if Shiver gets really annoyed by getting feared all the time, eventually he will have that ultimate where he can't be feared. And who knows? Maybe 1 or 2 times we'll just see him snap and go straight for the Hui. Stop fearing me so much. I think would be pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, that ultimate plus the Orianna combo is probably what Reluminate are going to be looking for once this game breaks open to the mid to late game. Just getting that Orianna Hecarim combo will basically be their goal. And if they get it 1 to 2 times, I would say that the game will definitely be within their control and their dictatorship to be able to control the outcome of the game.
Absolutely here. We'll be keeping a close eye on how he's going to be able to navigate that matchup. Just a real classic Mage v Mage in the mid lane. I don't expect to see too much pressure towards each other, but again, they're going to be fighting for that wave prio quite a bit, and Orianna wins a lot of those matchups. I do wonder if she wins it up against Hui, though. Again, that Molten Fissure is just so tough to outpush against. So if he's going to be the one that's able to get the push more frequently, he's going to be able to move around and help out the Vi. That might have quite a bit of an effect to swing some of these other matchups. We do see another aggressive bot lane duo coming out of the side of Reluminate. They've got that Lucian Melio. They do definitely want to look to dominate the bot side with that. Get some additional pressure from that Orianna whenever possible. Get some additional pressure from that Hecarim. And she's constantly pushed in, then they might find themselves outnumbered in some of those fights if Aljun can play his timers correctly.
Yeah, exactly. And Aojun, I think, is the player I really want to focus on when it comes to Lotus. We mentioned a little bit about it last game, but Aojun has been a player that, for the time he has had a career, which hasn't been a ton of time, I definitely think it could be appropriate to call I call Aojun, sorry, more on the rookie side of players. He has struggled to find a decent amount of results, and so I think that this game, winning this game, getting into top 16, could really put him and his teammates for that matter on the map. And I think this is a really important game for him to win, going against a team who is riding a lot of that hype, and just putting a stop to it would definitely speak volumes as to this team and Aojun's ability to perform under pressure potentially.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be what's the case for a lot of Reluminate as well. I mean, a lot of these guys have not gotten to put their names on the map too much yet either. Very few, if any, of these guys have made top 16 before. I don't think. I would have to go and double check the exact results there. I do think a couple of them were able to do it in the spring qualifier with Conviction. That was kind of this same core. I know Aojun was on that team as well, so maybe a little bit of a grudge match there, as well as Crucial and Shimmer. But I think the rest of the squad, I think Foles, Exithy, and Kafu, I can't think of seeing their names previously on a team that was able to make kind of that top 16 run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, new faces against some familiar faces and a combination of new faces. And I definitely think that this game is going to kind of raise some eyebrows. Whoever wins this, the team, a lot of people will be looking at them being like, wow, this team is certainly defying some expectations. And I think that that is the name of the game for this one right here, is expectations. So we'll have to wait and see just sort of how the teams mesh together, because they've had positive records, but obviously both have gone down recently. So we'll have to see if maybe there's a little bit of leftover salt, maybe a little leftover rust for either of them. And just making sure that they go into this game clear-headed, I think, is the most important thing for trying to get this last game to top 16.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a rough, I think, match to be in, right? To have started off day 1, 2-0, come into day 2,
Absolutely.
Come into day 2, lose your first match, kind of lose some of that momentum that you had coming in on the day, and having had to restart your whole game, right? You had to start warming up again. It's a brand new day. It doesn't feel as much like a continuation of the previous day, so definitely possible to have the wind taken out of your sails a little bit by an early loss. I definitely think it'll probably be easier for Reluminate to shake that off, given that they were playing up against Winthrop. Lotus, though, you got to believe they were coming in to their matchup against Aporia thinking, hey, this is winnable. We should be able to make a big play here. As I am unable to download spectator data, that is a tragedy. Let's try the reconnect here and see if we're going to be able to get in. All right, and we'll get unpaused, and we are good to go into the in-game pause. But at the very least, Quacks, we have got ourselves into a position where we're going to be able to spectate this game from the very beginning.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's 2 pauses in a row for us personally, you and I, Gordo.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, but for the most part, just looking at these rune setups, nothing too out of the ordinary has happened. You can see all the keystones are basically what they should be. Shimmer deciding to take that Conquer. Obviously, you have the opportunity, or the option rather, to go for the Phase Rush, but that is more in line with lethality builds, which are less common in competitive play. But something I really want to highlight is Exithy with the barrier of all summoner spells. So barrier heal coming out for the Milio Lucian, usually an aggressive lane, taking defensive summoner spells, which is really interesting to see.
Definitely here. So we are unpaused into the game, onto the Rift. I'll have to see how these teams are going to be able to navigate. One of these teams will be able to breathe a huge sigh of relief here as they get themselves up to 3-1 and guarantee themselves a spot in the top 16. The other is going to have that pressure amplified as they find themselves in the 2-2 bracket and play what is likely going to be their most meaningful match of the weekend before too long. Definitely a must-win match here for both of these teams.
And you can already see that Foles and Aljum want to get any kind of advantage they can to secure something early on. Aljum hitting Foles with the Sky Strike, Foles hitting him with a ball. So it happens. But also, we can see the defensive work coming out from Shimmer. Interestingly enough, Shimmer actually decided not to go for a health pot. So this is telling me this Hecarim is planning to full clear and back. No fighting required. If a crab is there, he will not be fighting for it if he doesn't have prio in both side lanes. And that is exactly the kind of style you would expect from a Hecarim. Full clear into getting your items, into running over the whole team.
Do love to see teams being a little bit more creative like that, you know, being willing to go away from the exact default path option and innovate themselves a little bit of something new. It's also not a surprise to me that I see this as one of the first teams we've gotten to see play the Udyr top. Obviously, not really a secret too much anymore, but definitely the kind of squad I would expect to pick this up early. And then similarly, that Hecarim going to be a unique pick for them as well, as Crucial gets themselves a huge trade early on up against Porsche, as you expect out of that rank 1 Udyr.
Yeah, I mean, this is when Rumble is certainly at his weakest, when he doesn't have the opportunity to really stack that heat and deal that extra little bit of damage. And Crucial taking full advantage of that, going for an early trade. Now level 2 and pushing him in, already putting Porsche on the back foot, trying to pressure him as much as possible.
And Porsche is just sick of this at this point, right? I mean, we saw him last game. He comes in on the Aatrox, getting pushed in early by the Rumble, taking rough trades against the Rumble. Now he is the Rumble, but he's got to play up against the Udyr. So no matter what happens, he seems to be finding himself in these sorts of negative lane situations where the wave's just getting pushed into his face over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Crucial was trying to go for a proxy farm there, but Porsche was just not having it and took a little bit of a bite out of the Udyr. But in other lanes, though, XFP and Kufas pushing in the bot wave. Crucial taking a massive chunk of his health off there.
Losing a fair bit up against that level 3 Rumble. Ticked the level 3 a little bit sooner. Was able to utilize that differential for about a second. Finds himself a winning trade. He's now going to have the wave pushing back in towards Crucial, where we'll have the opportunity to at least farm it on up, maybe look for a bit of a freeze if he can withstand the pressure that this Rumble's putting out, which might be a bit tough on this early Udyr. He's got cookies, but that's about the best that he's going to have to be able to keep him safe as Shimmer, as you indicated earlier, Quacks, going in for that full clear, not really having ganking on the mind at this point yet.
Yeah, I mean, he can see where the wave states are. He knows that Frost is most likely on that bot side. So he's just going to say, screw it. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to try and fight for this bot crab. I'm just going to move on to the top crab. And he did take the Raptors first, so he does have the option to just stay out there if he wants to and continue clearing.
Looking for a little bit of an early play in mid is Frost. There's going to be a flash away from Porsche. Shimmer does make a visit up to the top lane. The chain CC on a Porsche. He's already flashed. He will go down. And first blood to Crucial on the Udyr.
Yup, but you can see that Frost Forest has spotted out the respawn on the Raptors, so he is going to take those away from Shimmer. A good little trade there from the Vi to try and equalize or stop the bleeding that has been caused by this Reluminate squad.
Very good stuff here to try to get some kind of response, but I definitely do think that's going to favor Reluminate at the end of the day, getting that first blood gold despite the loss in the jungle camp. So that means Shimmer's going to be able to come back on out. Already has that Caulfield's Warhammer completed. Feeling very good about that start. Is rough trade in mid lane for Foles, though, as Ajun finds the full combo after crushing Maw.
Yeah, and Crucial expending that TP here. Porsche really trying to shove out that wave as quickly as possible so that Crucial loses at least some minions, but he does have the TP available. So yeah, just a trade of TPs on the top laners. Doesn't mean too much yet, as we are still a bit of ways away from those becoming unleashed, but nonetheless, Crucial, a kill up, has 2 Ruby Crystals, so this is getting harder for Porsche to even kill or touch at all.
Yeah, it definitely does seem to be the case, as Crucial finding another opportunity to run down Porsche here, get a couple of those Grasp of the Undying procs, and really chunk out this Rumble. You've got to respect this guy when he's shoving up into your lane, but the burn back around from Porsche. The overheated Rumble really tearing into his health bar there.
Yep, and you can see that there's a lot of action happening on this top side of the map. Aojun just sitting there. Frostforce and Shimmer.
Oh, Frost actually ends up coming off with 2 of those Void Grubs, it looked like. So, gonna be 2-1 between him and Shimmer. Maybe not exactly the result that he was hoping for when Shimmer started that camp off, but at least going to be able to secure 1 and not going to let up the pressure either. He's got a level advantage, and he is willing to brawl with Frost. Porsche going to throw down the equalizer, burning onto that Hecarim a little bit. The smite away, Crucial going to drop first, and it's all going bad for Reluminate, as now Crucial getting chased down as well. Porsche going to pick up the double kill in the 2-for-1.
And just like that, Porsche is back in the game. Aojun expending his ultimate, looking for a trade onto Fulls.
Ooh. Quite a bit of damage coming on in there. The addition of the Spiraling Despair going to keep Fulls very low on HP, but not going to be enough to finish on off the kill. And now 2 kills into Porsche's Rumble. Already has that Haunting Guys complete. Feeling very strong in the top lane. Getting pushed in over and over again, but staying even in that CS. And has been able to get themselves some of those early kills as well off that last trade.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that has remained untouched since it spawned is the dragon that is now coming up. You can see Frostforce is on the bot side of the map. He has push in the bot lane as well. Wards being set up around that area. So if Vi wants to go for an objective, try and put some pressure onto that neutral, I think now would most likely be the time, as Shimmer is moving himself up to the top side of the map.
Yeah, Frost doing the same, though. Both have their top quadrant camps up. Both going to look to just farm them, and that's going to mean this dragon just stays alive for quite a bit longer. This bot lane, we haven't been paying too much attention to it, but Exathy and Kafu, despite the winning lane matchup, that lane-dominant focus from the Lucian Emilio, not finding themselves in the CS lead quite yet, as Crucial and Porsche going at it once again, but Frost once again with the first one on the play. This is not looking well for the Udyr, as they are going to try to focus in as much damage as they can. The CC immunity going to get Crucial some extra damage, or some extra distance out of the way. An attempted collapse from Aojun. Now Aojun might be a little bit outnumbered. Dodge away on the skill shots, back in with the charge from the Hecarim. Here comes the equalizer, but they've already melted down the mid laner. Crucial trying to run for the hills. Shimmer already down. Crucial gonna join him. And Porsche gets himself a second double kill. Another 2-for-1 on the top side, favoring Lotus.
And Porsche is showing everyone exactly who he is. This is a known prospect in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 community. And we're not even done yet, Gordo.
Flash in the bottom side, looking to get some pressure on towards Exathy, who is forced to use both summoner spells. Just taking control across the map are Lotus now, as they've built themselves up a solid lead in the bot lane 2v2, just barely missing out on canceling that recall. And they're going to at least be able to crash this wave and look for some of those turret plates.
Yup, you can see that the Varus has now accumulated a really solid CS lead over this Lucian. Nearly 20 CS over here. And this is basically when Lucian shines, right? Lucian in the early game, especially with a champion like Emilio, who just beefs up and continues to add fire to that aggression. This is not something you usually see, but it is something that is happening. And Lotus feels like they're taking control of this game. The gold lead is small, but Porsche 4-1, you have got to be careful when this Rumble breaks out of the game, because that equalizer is going to barbecue you alive.
Yeah, and do have to call out, we've been griefing this analysis of the bot lane a little bit. They are going for the double support items, so a fair bit of CS has gone over to Kafu. But this is another catch on the top lane. This kill gold is going to keep on coming through. The top side, definitely gold in favor of Lotus. But Exathy and Kafu, they are building themselves up an advantage in that bottom lane. It's just not showing up in the CS numbers.
Yeah, we did grief it a little bit, you and I, Gordo. But with the death of Crucial, with that Udyr being off the map for another few seconds here, that will mean Void Grubs going over to the side of Lotus. I believe you said that Frost Forest had 2 of them from the last respawn, so that means that they will be getting 5. So Void Mites will be active for this blue squad.
Yeah, looking like it here. That's going to be the 4th, and this will make 5. Geiger taking a fair bit of damage. That is not Geiger. That is Forsen. He's trolling us with the in-client name. This is why Tournament Realm.
I hate it so much.
This is why you need Tournament Realm. Geiger is another player in the tournament, man. You're messing with everything on the VODs here. But all fun and games. Forsen having a fine time in the bot lane anyway here on this Varus. looking for the push once again. Meanwhile, this Dragon is getting started up by Reluminate. Will they come up and notice that this is going down? They're calling over the jungler as well. It's too late. They are going to be able to secure themselves that Dragon here. That is going to go over to Shimmer.
Yep, absolutely. First Dragon acquired over for Reluminate, like you said, Gordo. So there is the potential for scaling, but that was a pretty late Dragon. Oh, Aojun might be in trouble.
Dive in for Shimmer. Full's already there with the damage, and Aojun will be going down. No mobility on that Hui. No flash available. And back on the board for the first time in a while are Reluminate. They get themselves into the gold lead.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, though, there isn't really any objective for them to push that kill onto. And Aojun does have access to the TP, so yes, you burn that. Oh, hang on, Frost Forest is in the bot lane.
Frost going to look for the chain CC onto Exathy. Nice sustain coming through from the Melio, but they are not letting up. They're going to keep advancing forward. Fulls arrives off the TP, but it's too little too late to be able to save Exathy's life. Crucial has arrived as well, as they're going to look to at least take down this Rakan. The damage on the Udyr is coming in too hard and too fast. Another kill over to Forsen, as Full's going to be able to clean up one, but that is not the result they were hoping for to try to defend this dive, as they end up losing out on that Lucian and on their TP in friends.
Yeah, it felt like a little bit of miscommunication as to who the priority target was there for Reluminate, and it did end up in them having a, I would say, a losing trade. They're still pushed in, and now you have a Varus complete with a Blade of the Ruin King, so a lot of power coming in for that ADC pick now that he has that item in tow. Overall, though, it has been Lotus taking control of the game so far, and it's only going to get worse as they do have the Void Mites available to keep pushing down these plates.
Yeah, those are the thresholds where these Void Grubs start to get really, really annoying. And that is certainly going to be the case here for Reluminate, as they have to deal with those Mites coming in from Lotus. Did get themselves the first Dragon a little bit later on the clock, so going to be a whiles away from any kind of soul. It's at least a game plan they can play for, though. They have already been able to get their first item here onto the Lucian, and they are accelerated in how quickly they're going to be able to get items onto the Melio as well, with him partaking in a fair bit of that farm himself.
Yep, and some items have been coming in for key targets on both teams. Specifically, Shimmer and Frost Force have completed their first items, the Sundered Sky and the Spear of Sojourn, respectively. So some power going over to those carries as well. But it's going to be a little bit before that Orianna, curiously enough, Fulls does not have his item complete despite being 2-0. So this is very much, I would say, the carry that you want to play around at this point, just based off of Golden's scoreline, who is starving a little bit.
Now melting down here. Look at all the damage this Rumble brings to the
God.
table. Leandry's already done, and Frost Forest arrives to guarantee the kill will be completed. Getting some gold for themselves here with that Sundered Sky, and now they are all alone on the top side of the map. They are going to be able to get plenty of damage in out of this turret.
Yup, and the Rift Herald is spawning in a few seconds here. Frost Force going for the reset, but probably just going to go back to that top side. Maybe pick up the red buff on the way, but you can see the desire to try and get that neutral with Mixture sort of running around on that side of the jungle.
For sure. Here comes Shimmer, going to be able to find Mixture in the jungle, but he's going to be outnumbered before too long and have to try to book his way out of here. No problem there. Has Fulls for the backup if it was necessary, and we'll just leave.
Yep. As soon as he came, he left. No problem there as he tried to go in, but Aojun flashes.
In, out, in, out. You get a summoner spell at the end of the day. All good and dandy for Shimmer here, as does look to keep that Hui as immobile as possible. And it's really, really important to have that summoner spell available on these mages when you just have no other response. When the Udyr starts running at you, when the Hecarim is diving in with the Onslaught of Shadows, you want to have access to that escape mechanism, and having that taken away before important fights is going to be a big deal. As Exathy forced to flash back away to get away from the Grand Entrance. Fair damage coming back in. There's going to be the Shockwave in mid lane as well, as Crucial arrives to punish Aojun for being flashless. Going to be able to finish off the kill, but Frost wants to get one back. There's the equalizer across the team, and it burns down Crucial as Porsche goes unstoppable.
Yeah, good follow-up, good equalizer there from a Porsche, but beautiful Q flash there from Frost Forest. You would think that Crucial was out of that fight, but we're not done yet.
Another knock aside from Shimmer. Porsche going to be able to just use that shield, going to have to expend the flash as well to get out. As Exathy and Kafu look like they're looking for some kind of fight. 2 versus 2, calling down Shimmer as well for the cutoff, and they may have big-brained this. They know exactly where they're waiting, and Forsen and Mixture are going to get collapsed upon by the Hecarim. Damage coming through thick and fast onto the Khan, and they will be able to finish off the Varus as well. 2 for 0 to Reluminate.
Yup, and right as the dragon spawns as well, this will be 2 dragons here for the Reluminate squad. A double kill coming out from Shimmer. We talked about how important it was that this Hecarim was online, and it struggled in the early game, but with that double kill, with the Spear of Sojin intact and 2 dragons at that, this pick is starting to come online, and this is exactly where I want to see the Reluminate squad put their foot on the gas.
Absolutely, there's going to be a 3-man squad on the top side, and Foles outnumbered, about to get burned down. Porsche gets another. This one is shutdown gold, plus the first turret gold. So much being invested into this Rumble, and it is paying off dividends this point in the game. Crucial still pushing on the bottom side here up against Aojun. Just going to look to be a little bit annoying here, going for the spell immune, getting slowed down by that spiraling despair, but he doesn't care. He's got the backup of his jungler, and he'll be able to just walk this one out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Aojun, despite being 0-3, still has a lot of agency on this Hui. I really want to highlight just how effective this pick has been, despite the scoreline telling you otherwise. I mean, this is Hui, right? Still really good in team fights to have that ultimate, all the spells available.
Cease and desist coming on through. Can the Emilio even move? No chance for Kafu. He will go on down. A nice collapse put together by Lotus as they are ready to move forward, throw down their Rift Herald, and they could even go for 2 turrets here. The full squad of Reluminate coming to try to defend, but they will be outnumbered.
Oh no, he's doing the thing.
There's going to be the dive in, charging forward. Exathy has to dash back to safety. Big damage onto the turret. Flash in from Foles. 3-man shockwave as here comes the Hecarim. Shimmer gallops across the members of Lotus and takes one down, looking to make Frost for the second. Shutdown goes over to Foles on that kill. It's a 2 for 0. They do lose 2 towers for it, but they're at least able to get themselves something back, and they're looking for more as Aojun has been collapsed upon. He still has no flash from earlier, and over the wall, not even needed from Exathy as the 2 frontliners melt him down.
Yup, and Shimmer, the Hecarim, it's starting to come online. It is tearing up the squad of Lotus. And now they have to start drafting a response. They have to start paying respect to the combo of the Orianna Shockwave plus the Hecarim ultimate, because we see exactly what happens when they don't. A really clean team fight coming out from the Reluminate squad.
Such good things here being put together by both teams. Paymakers traded back and forth, 11 kills to 11, only about 1k gold separating the teams at this point in the game. This is a close fight to lock in qualification to top 16. Neither team wanting to sacrifice any bit of ground that they don't need to. And they are going to continue to go back and forth here as we get into the later game.
Yup, absolutely. And it looks like Shimmer is just completely fine with continuing to get these camps, continuing to get this CS lead that he has had for essentially the entire game. This Hecarim just continuously able to play their own game, and it doesn't really feel like Lotus at the current moment has the tools to be able to stop him. So it's just going to keep galloping along, like you said, Gordo, until a team fight comes and they manage to maybe get a pick or maybe manage to catch Shimmer out at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And with these double support items, they're really starting to pay off for the bottom lane now, by the way. We haven't gotten to see Exathy and Kafu piece them together too much yet, but getting that Blood Song on the Lucian, it's so powerful. It's basically like a little press the attack proc plus a Sheen proc on top of each other. Does so much damage and sets up for so much follow-up damage from folks like Foles and Shimmer and even Crucial, who's going for a little bit of damage amp in their own right. And then that Dream Maker just giving even more support over to the rest of the team out of Kafu. These support items are very powerful, and getting multiples is definitely a big benefit of this sort of approach.
And maybe I'm wrong, Gordo, but man, I just feel like every single season there is some kind of exploit to be had with support items. It doesn't matter what the support items are, what they do, it's every season just something happens with the support items that Riot did not intend.
And here's that speed and how much it matters on folks like Udyr and Hecarim as they just run in full speed. Kapu getting a little bit caught out on the other side, going to pop the ultimate to be able to kite backwards. Chains of Corruption going to slow down Exithy on the other side.
Big!
They dive on forward, but they're not getting them on top of the equalizer. They're not getting the value off of Porsche's Rumble. Shimmer forced to gallop away in order to avoid going down, and nobody gonna drop on other team. Health bars lower for Reluminate. They may get pushed off this dragon.
Yeah, I mean, this is a dragon that you want if you're Reluminate. This gives you access to soul points. So much pressure can be had by getting this dragon, but your members are low. They are on a reset timer. If they can get there in time, maybe they can go for the fight. They don't have access to the equalizer. They don't have access to the cease and desist. So many ultimates from this Lotus squad are down.
Full combos coming through onto Crucial, going very low there from that Hwei ultimate, but look at all the damage coming through onto Aljun. They're going to be able to chunk Forsen down low as well as they look to move further towards this Dragon Pit. They want to keep their stacking game plan alive. They do not want to go quietly, even after getting chunked down earlier in the fight. Looks like Lotus are going to try to start it up anyway, but they're going to find themselves outnumbered here before too long. Aljun is so low, he cancels the recall. Exithy leading the charge, pushes the members outside of the Dragon Pit, and they'll be able to claim this for Reluminate. They refocus their efforts, they rejoin together, and they are going to be able to get themselves on a soul point.
And what felt like initially a really suspicious team fight, Shimmer being so low there, not really able to enter in, being a man down. They managed to zone the remaining members of a Lotus off of that pit and get it for themselves. Soul point now for the team. This is exactly the kind of plan that Reluminate were looking for, and all they need is one more dragon to execute on this masterpiece and qualify for the top 16.
Yeah, and Exithy shows up big there. Why he's so powerful on this Lucian. This is basically a 3-item Lucian coming at you with the addition of that Blood Song, and nobody's got their Frozen Heart completed yet. Frostforce is working on it, but it's not there yet. So he takes a boatload of damage, and he's got to retreat alongside the rest of his team.
Yeah, absolutely. Frost Forest feels like just getting blown up in a lot of these fights, really in need of a tank item, like you said, Gordo, but just does not have the gold to complete it. Luckily, has a few camps to take for himself that can help, but yeah, both of these teams, no fight is really to be had for a while unless a pick is given over by one of the teams. So I expect both of the teams to just set up vision, take as many wards down as possible, take as many camps down as possible, and just try and threaten a pick.
Gotta be. The pick is the name of the game here. Still got Foles catching waves up on the top side, setting up for when it's going to be time to play again, but I do really like that Reluminate, they're not going for goofy stuff, right? They're not face-checking areas they don't need to. They're not going for unnecessary vision. They are staying on their distance when they don't have anything to fight for yet. Now having to think about that Baron a little bit, as it is going to be under the control of Lotus. Does look like it's going to be the all-seeing Baron, so they've got that really long cavern to play through. Frost maybe going to be the focus here. He's going to jump right over the wall.
Yep, I mean, Crucial, despite having a pretty rough early game, Udyr is Udyr. He is incredibly tanky now, has a bunch of defensive items under his belt, and is just leading the charge for his team because he knows he has that follow-up available. He's really not afraid of anything, and why should he be?
Absolutely. Really tough to actually work your way through that tanky Udyr now on this kind of composition. That poke damage from something like the Hwei, it gets shrugged off pretty easily. You would need to set up fight lines and actually let the Varus hit with his on-hit build for a while, but not being able to put that together means that when he's running you down in the jungle, you either commit to a full-on 5-on-5 fight, or you have to get away from the Udyr.
Yep, absolutely. And as the Dragon timer ticks further down and down by the second, this is a humongous dragon to have if you're a Reluminate, because one of the changes of Season 14, for those of you who don't know, who are watching, is that the Infernal Soul did get changed. To the point where now you get little embers that give you CDR on champions like Hecarim. That is an absolutely huge pickup, but We're starting the Baron here.
TP in from Foles. Shimmer waiting inside those caverns. This could be such a dangerous place to fight against a Rumble, but also a dangerous place to fight up against this Udyr Hecarim duo, as they are going to get pushed back away. There's the Spiraling Despair already utilized, and Crucial just shrugs it off like it's nothing. Tanking one of those big damage abilities from the Hui and getting that cooldown away. Now regrouping, 5-on-5, dancing in the mid lane here. We got the classic NA-RAM one way or the other, as both teams posturing for control over this Baron, but not quite able to get it.
It feels like Reluminate should be sending someone to the side lanes because both the side lanes have tier 1 turrets up and available. At 25 minutes, these things are incredibly easy to take, and it's free gold. So I really want to see either Crucial or Foles try and take one of these turrets, try and threaten a side lane. This Udyr even has TP to potentially back that up. Should Lotus choose to go for a team fight, he can just drop in.
Yep. Push achieved to the bottom lane by Aojun. That has to be responded to at some point by Reluminate. Liked the call to move Shiver away from that dance to be able to go and secure the blue buff. There's a team-wide blue buff. Foles is going to appreciate it. Everybody's going to appreciate the extra CDR. It's going to make a big difference here. There's the dive in. They're going in for Foles. He is going to have his spell shield proc, but he will get saved by Kafu as Crucial leads the charge back into the team and forces Frost back. There's the quickness, though. The dive in on the mid laner. Foles going to be the first one to drop in this fight. They will be able to trade back for Mixture on the other side, as here's the flank from Shimmer. Diving forward on towards Porsche, who will be able to back away with the rest of the squad. Aojun looking for poke on the side and looking to keep the side of Forsen as safe as they can. Retreat is found by Frost. It's just a 1-for-1 with the mid laner worth much more than the support.
Yeah, absolutely. Lotus definitely happy with that trade, but now they face a much bigger challenge securing this dragon. You can see Frost Force on this side here, maybe trying to look for something, but he will be spotted on a ward.
Held down by Crucial as the smite comes through for Shimmer. That's going to be Infernal Soul achieved for Reluminate. They trade 1-for-1 yet again. Top laner for top laner, but the permanent buff has been received by the red team.
Yup, absolutely. If you're Reluminate, you are happy with that trade any time of the day, every day of the week. Crucial typing in the chat, GG, a good death. As it certainly was a good death. Locking down Frost Forest there, like you said, Gordo, to secure the Infernal Dragon. And now Reluminate, with their game plan set in motion, with them reaching the late game, having the soul available, they have their eyes set on the Baron.
Absolutely, and now being able to come in stronger than ever, that extra oomph of damage going to be so valuable, especially when you have kind of these off-tanky damage dealers like Shimmer and Crucial on your team. Shimmer basically a full-on damage dealer in their own right at this point with the Sword of Shojin and the Triforce completed, but it's going to mean a lot to somebody like Crucial, who is kind of relying on the shredded magic resist to be able to dish out most of his.
Yep, absolutely. As you can see that now with their game plan enacted, they are trying to get as much pressure here onto the mid lane as possible. One crucial thing that this Reluminate squad has not yet gotten to take is a turret. All of the turrets are available for the Lotus squad, and you can see why so much wave clear on this blue side.
Huge block there by Crucial, using that CC immunity to just absorb the Vault Breaker for the rest of the team. And now Frost just immediately has to back on away. Doesn't have a good target to target with that cease and desist. They will get pushed back in mid lane. They will get pushed out of the top river. And now all this vision that they put so much effort into getting for themselves, it might just get swept away.
Yep, and I really do appreciate the two control wards practically kissing each other in that bush, but Crucial's going in!
Diving forward, taking a fair bit of damage. Shockwave does not connect, but they will get themselves a freebie in the Rakan. Look at that Spiraling Despair, though, detonating across the team and taking down Crucial with it.
Yeah, Aojun with the Hui ultimate does so much damage that AoE takes Crucial down. And now, with the top laner gone, the main tank of your team eliminated from the fight, they're thinking they can go for the Baron.
Shimmer's so low, he's got no ultimate, he has no way of getting into this pit. Culling over the wall is Exithy, trying to get some kind of lucky shot. Not gonna find it. Frost Forest says thanks for the assist, and he's gonna walk away with the Baron buff for his team.
Yeah, really good read there from Lotus. One has the Baron buff, the other one has the Infernal Soul. So now this is Lotus's time to try and push out as many lanes as possible. Again, they have all of their turrets available. They can play defense, but now is the time to go offensive. Push your lead, push with your buff that's only temporary, and try and get as many advantages as you can before this Elder Dragon spawns.
Frost coming in on the flank here. Lots of back pings, but it might be too late. Exathy is the target. Can they collapse on him in time? The Maw not going to be able to pull him back in. Crucial going to melt way too fast, though. He's got 5 damage dealers pumping everything they got into him, and he will be taken off the map once again. A 5 versus 4 push being mounted by Lotus. But look at what the defense can be mounted by Reluminate. There's the dive in. There's the shockwave back onto the team. Aljun taken low. They're going to be able to finish off Mixture first. Now look at the front line. It's got to be Forsen pushing them further back. They find their way onto Exathy. And now Foles is fully responsible for those carry duties. They've got to be able to keep him safe. It ends up just being a 1-for-1 with Crucial already down.
And really good pick back on there by Forzen. I wasn't expecting for Exathy to go down, but the Varus with the 3 items now manages to get a return kill and return fire where they were the ones that were supposed to get burned.
Absolutely here. Really great usage out of some of the new items there, going for a little bit of additional on-hit power. Going to see what they're going to be able to manufacture off of that. Is on the back foot still are Reluminate. They do still have access to that Infernal buff, but have not been able to put together a fight win since they secured it. That Baron buff going to be dropping off here before too long. That might give them a little bit of an opportunity to come back.
Yep, absolutely. Multiple resets coming on for the side of Lotus. You can see Crucial is sort of deeper than he is expected to be, clearing out vision where he can. Just trying to get any kind of advantage, warding advantage or otherwise, for this all-important Elder fight.
And Geiger, not Geiger, Forsen.
Now
Forsen with access to that Terminus already. He's going to go for a Jaxio the Protean as well. Just get himself that little bit extra tankiness, get himself that extra proc to regen a little bit of health wherever he can, and make him a more difficult target to be able to one-shot for somebody like Exathy, who is still quite a big threat with this on-hit build.
Yep, absolutely. Exathy is certainly a target that the Lotus squad needed to take into account for this fight, but you really need to watch where the ball is. Keep your eye on the ball. Did you learn nothing from baseball when you were a child? Make sure that this Orianna ultimate does not hit all of you. Make sure you know when this Hecarim is going to engage with it, and just keep your eye on these priority targets, this Orianna and this Hecarim in particular.
And Elder is the name of the game now as the dance begins around Bottom River. No Baron available, nothing to trade for. Neither team going to want to let this go easily. Porsche we're going to pump out damage into Crucial, but now with 3 items completed, he can shrug that off a lot more easily. But look at that damage, actually, that starts to come out across. He's got a big fat shield. He's got the addition of the Cozy Campfire, but is it just enough? He's just tanking too much on the other side, and they're not really getting anything back for it other than pushing back Porsche. There's going to be the culling opened up onto. Doesn't land onto any targets. There's the Cease and Desist coming out through. Frost is taking up most of the damage. Shimmer going to retreat away. Kafu has already dropped down. Exathy left out way too far in the river. Will join the rest of his team in death, as this is going to be Elder Dragon given over to Lotus as they push back the last remaining stragglers of Reluminate. Foles is on the wrong side of the map, and he's going to get taken down by the Sky Strike before long.
Yup, all he can do is a run, but he cannot hide. He's trying to pull the waves as much as possible.
Great call.
But here comes Aoju just waiting there. Trying to get the kill. We'll take him down, but now looks like they are just pushing down in the bot lane.
Yeah, can they keep this game alive at all at this point is the question. Exathy is going to be up in 3 seconds. I don't think they're going to be able to win it. They will be able to take this inhibitor. Teleport already being channeled for Crucial, though. They want to get something off the back of this. They think that they've overcommitted, and they're going to look for the punish. Porsche drops down. Mixture falls as well. The next target's going to be Forsen, and Forsen will be taken off the map. 3 kills go over to Reluminate as they strike back.
Yup, but Aojun being chased down by Crucial here, but he has the Elder buff. You have to respect that. Execute if you are Udyr. And somehow Frostforce manages to get himself out. This Udyr just being a nuisance. He's like the mosquito that you encounter at 3 a.m. that just you cannot find.
Oh, yeah. Really doing
We've all
as
been
much
there.
disruption as he can here. The Baron going to be up in 30 seconds. Everybody on Lotus will be up in time to respond to that. But a great bit of fight back put together there from Reluminate. If they can push out this bot wave, they can look to take this next Baron fight on fairly even terms.
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimates coming in from every single member. Flashes coming back for some crucial members as well. Curiously enough, though, no Ghost actually for Shimmer here. And this is a pretty important summoner spell to have if you want to try and get the Shockwave off in that back line. Just having that available, not only to get it off, but also to get out, because you are still the target that the enemy team wants to kill this Hecarim. Yeah, you really need to make sure that you are careful if you are this Hecarim, that you can get that ultimate off and get out at the same time.
Starting up here, they are going to spot it on the Scryer's ward. Here comes Shimmer on the other side. He has access to the Onslaught of Shadows to be able to get over the wall. They're going to open up with the culling. Not landing it onto anybody, though. That's a big cooldown. No longer available. Crucial taking a big chunk of damage there from Porsche's Flame Spitter as they are completely cut out of this pit. They can't get Shimmer in time, and they're going to lose the Baron. Fight starting off now. Quickness is taken down across the rest of the team, holding them in place. No follow-up damage is found yet, though. Shimmer leading the charge back in as they want to take this fight. They do not want to give up this Baron for free on the side of Reluminate. The dive on into the pit as Shimmer is looking to pump out as much damage as he possibly can. He dives forward. He doesn't get the fear onto the priority targets. He's looking to rain down hell on top of Aojun and on top of Forsen, but he cannot put it together in time. 4 kills go over to Lotus. The fight win and the game win soon to follow as they take down a full ace for Reluminate and will qualify to top 16.
A clean ace, and all of a sudden, one game hiccup, but Lotus stands strong. They are in the top 16, Gordo, and man, have they earned it.
Absolutely. A hard-fought 37-minute game there from the side of Lotus. They come on away with a big win here. So we're just looking at my reconnect button until we get the post-game. There we are. And such a hard-fought battle back and forth. Really clever calls there from Reluminate to try to find themselves ways back in. Love the TP behind on the base push to be able to pick themselves up from kills, but was not enough. And it does end up with Aojun leading the damage charts and a massive game put together by Lotus to qualify.
Yeah, and huge props to Aojun in that game. Started out 0-3 and managed to claw his way back, dealing so much damage in the process and really, really making the champion look almost easy. He executed on so many good ultimates and was always there for fights, laying down as much damage as possible. And ultimately, really a big contributor to this game win and the qualification to the top 16.
Absolutely here. Great stuff by them. Congratulations to Lotus. Reluminate now, after an explosive 2-0 start, are going to have to play for their tournament lives in round number 5. See if that's going to be our game to cover next. That's going to do it for this VOD, though, and we will see you all next time.